Hello everybody, welcome to a new Worldsmiths video. I am Freya Bell, also known as Penguin Ball on our Discord server, and it is NaNoWriMo Eve tonight. And as I'm doing a short story anthology for my Nano project, I thought it would be a fun video to walk you through the process of how I plan a short story. So what I am doing this year for my first story, we have this new anthology coming out. It is called Darkness and Moonlight, a Worldsmiths anthology, and as you can see from the screen here, we are looking for stories that take place under the cover of darkness, in a moonlit field, somewhere far from the sunlight where light is the enemy, perhaps. Anyway, I am double dipping this year because we, as you can see right here, allow reprints and simultaneous submissions. So I'm allowed to write a story for both my own personal anthology, which will be coming out from Worldsmiths sometime next year, and also for the Darkness and Moonlight anthology. So first I will be going through some basic mind mapping to kind of get the ideas out there, get the juice flowing, and trying to start some ideas and see where we go from there. And then afterwards I will put it into the 7-point story structure. So let's begin. Okay, so here we have our mind map. You can see I've already started there because I had to do another take because my dog started barking. And so this is Maz. Maz is an investigator with the Goddess of Truth. And if you've read our anthology, let me just slip that right on in there, Myths, Legends, and Dreams, there is a story featuring Maz as a child in the very first story here. And so this anthology is going to continue his adventures. There's going to be a couple stories of him as a child and a teen, and then we get into adult Maz, which is where this story takes place. And adult Maz is rebellious, he's curious, he's flirty, he's determined, he's a really fun character to write. So this is where I'm starting. I'm starting with the character. I don't have too much of an idea, but I do have an idea for the location, which is a haunted barrow. So a haunted barrow would be underground. Oh, I can't spell. It is dark. It is dirty. And as we said, it is haunted, so there are ghosts, possibly some skeletons, some artifacts. I've been reading on Wikipedia about Stonehenge and a bunch of old Neolithic burials and stuff, so this is where this came from, and they talk about the artifacts there. Side tangent. Anyway, and what else can we say about it? I think that covers it. We have to look for the conflict. So, what do we have so far? We have the character Maz and the location of a haunted barrow. There's some conflict there already, because Maz doesn't want to be there. So why is he there? Why? That is a good question. I actually don't have any idea. So I'm going to go to my next favorite brainstorming when this stalls out on me, and that is tarot cards and brainstorming cards. So I will be right back with those. Alright, so one of my favorite new toys is the Story Engine deck. And this set of cards, what you do is you draw one of each. This is the agent card, so that's your protagonist. Engine card is kind of what drives them. Anchor card, that's like an object or something for them to do. Conflict, they give you some ideas for where to find that. And these aspect cards are kind of like adjectives. They add more flavor to any of the cards you apply them to. So, let us pull at random here. Do any of these represent Maz? We have a dicer, a swashbuckler, a liege, or tactician. I think of all of those, a swashbuckler would most describe Maz. Wants to unravel the mystery of. Well, that explains Maz right there in a nutshell. Wants to spread a lie about. That's not very Mazzy of him. He's all about the truth. So I'm going to go with unraveling the mystery of. Let's see. A set of manacles, a cult, sanatorium, or a cadaver. Well, we have our barrow, so it could be a cadaver or it could be a cult. I'm thinking let's go with cadaver and see kind of where the brainstorming takes us from there. Conflict. But it will mean a city is destroyed. Oh, those stakes are a little big. But it will mean giving up an important heirloom. Oh, that's a good one. Maz does have a few things he's carried and kept since his childhood, so I think I will go with that one. These are our aspect cards. Merfolk, Masterwork, Trapped, Chaotic. Trapped. A trapped cadaver. That sounds interesting. So, I'm just going to move these and bring our paper back here. So we have Swashbuckler wants to unravel the mystery of a trapped cadaver, but it'll mean giving up an important artifact or heirloom. Okay. Trapped cadaver. What does that make me think of? What's the word? Draugr. Like from Skyrim and also other mythologies. Desiccated. Creepy. Maybe also desperate. Desparate. Let's see, I think he can't move on. And conflict. It'll mean giving up an important heirloom. So one of the very few things Maz has from childhood that he's kept is it's kind of like a lighter. It's a little thing, looks like that size, silver metal engraved, and when you spin the wheel, sparks shoot out. It's a little children's toy. And his brother gave it to him after they stole it because they were child thieves. And it's one of the few things Maz has that is a happy memory associated with his brother. So that is a very good thing to have to give up. Spark spinner. And it is precious to him. And it is also light. So what I'm thinking here is that we can connect these two. The trapped cadaver that can't move on, and the light. I'm thinking Maz has to give this creepy, desiccated corpse that is trapped in a barrow his very precious toy that provides light, because the cadaver is scared and trapped and can't move on, and this will allow the trapped corpse to kind of calm and center themselves and see light for the first time in centuries perhaps, and move on, pass on to the other realm. But how did he get here? Why is Maz in this barrow to begin with? Well, for the start, people are hearing creepy moans coming from the barrow. And the village hires him to investigate. So that gets Maz into the barrow. And is there much of a mystery, though? We have to find some conflicts. He has to find his way into the barrow. Oh, that's probably another trick-or-treater. I'll be right back. Alright, we are back. I think the trick-or-treaters are done for the night because it is almost 20 after 9, so we should be safe to keep going here. So what I have in front of us is the 7-point story structure. I learned about this from a fantastic YouTube series by Dan Wells, which I will try to remember to link in the description below. And I'll just move over to my other screen here real quick. So to explain what each square is, I didn't want to write it all out, but the hook is your character's turning point. It is the before picture. It is where you're kind of starting, and it is the opposite of the ending. Turning point number 1 introduces the conflict and bridges the gap between the hook and the midpoint. The character's world changes, there's new people, new secrets, etc. This is where kind of the exciting stuff happens. Pinch point 1 is where you apply pressure. This is also often used to introduce the antagonist, which takes us to the midpoint, point of no return, where the character makes that conscious decision to change or move forward on their own. And this is also where we change from the hook end to the transition end. This is where they're really throwing down and saying, yes, I will take the ring to Mordor, etc. Pinch point 2 is where you apply more pressure. Your story takes the ultimate dive. Your character is at his or her darkest moment, and they've lost everything. And turn point number 2 is where you move the story from the midpoint to the resolution, where your character realizes he or she has the final piece of information to achieve what they set out to do in the midpoint. This is the I have the power moment, which takes us to the resolution, which is the conflict climax of your story. And everything in your story should be leading to this moment here where your character either achieves what they set out to do or they fail miserably, whatever the tone of your story is. So, what is the hook of our story? What is the beginning look like for us? Maz is not in a barrow. He is probably in a bar somewhere with friends, with pretty men and or women. He is having a good time. But something happens. The village has problems, and they hire him to solve those problems. This is the main conflict. Maz wants to keep in his nice, happy little having a good time bubble, but he, one, needs to make a wage for more beer money, which makes him sound like a bit of a loser, but I swear he's not. He is hired, and this is where he meets new people. There's probably a guide who has to take him to the barrows. He will probably interview people to see what this whole mystery is about. Because Maz is a skeptic. He's probably thinking this is more of a Scooby-Doo villain kind of thing. Not that Scooby-Doo exists in his world, but you know what I mean. Like a hoax. Somebody messing with the villagers by going and moaning in the hills at night. But Maz gets to the barrows. And finds out they are super haunted. His guide runs away. And Maz is alone. Which brings us to the midpoint. Maz has a choice. He can either go back to the village and admit defeat, or he can go into the barrows and figure out what is riling up all the ghosts. So he makes that decision, and Maz goes into the barrows. Pinch point number 2 is where we are applying more pressure and where the character is at his darkest moment. So let's say the ghosts slash Draugr, the animated corpses of the dead, they capture him. He's a living person intruding on their domain, and they are not happy about it. Nobody is happy about it in this situation. Which brings us to then the turning point number 2, which is where Maz realizes he has all the tools and everything he needs. So one thing about Maz is he does have access to some God-given powers. He has the ability to summon the holy fire of truth, and he manipulates it because that's what he does. If he tells a lie, he can summon the holy fire. It doesn't hurt him, but it is extremely uncomfortable. And this provides light and fire. So he summons holy fire. And the ghosts are like, oh my god, it's light. We haven't seen light since we were buried here. They're like, whoa, light. So then they let him go. But this still doesn't solve the problem because the ghosts are stuck. They can't move on. They're stuck in this barrow. So they decide they want the fire from Maz. Maz can't give them holy fire, so he does the next best thing. And Maz gives them his spark spinner. So there we have a very rough skeleton of a story. We have a character who starts out not in a barrow, ends in a barrow. He starts out having a good time in a bar with friends. He ends up surrounded by dead people. So we do have a full circle there. As far as the conflict goes, it is resolved by the end. Both the characters of the ghosts and Maz get what they want. Maz wants to escape. The ghosts want a little bit of sunlight. And the village gets what they want. They will no longer have ghosts moaning in the hills all night long, keeping them awake. So I think this counts as a successful story, and we are good to start writing it. There is one more trick I want to show you about my short story process, which is something I learned from Mary Robinette Kowal. And I just need more paper, so I'll be back in just a second. Okay, so we have this thing called the story length formula. And length equals the number of characters plus number of locations times 750 times the number of mice elements divided by 1.5. So what does this all mean? So number of characters. These are your named characters, the ones that have lines. So we have Maz, we have the villager who guides him to the thing, and we have, let's say, one main speaker ghost. That's 3 characters. So we have 3 plus number of scenic locations. And we have the village bar, and then the barrow. And so that is 5 times 750, which equals, oh gosh, now I have to math. That equals 3,750. And then we times that again by the number of mice elements. Now, mice elements is more than what we can get into right here, but it is something Orson Scott Card, or I believe, I'll have to fact check that, came up with. Mary Robinette Kowal talks about it in Writing Excuses podcast. I've got a blog post about it. I'll link more information below, but what you need to know is there are milieu elements, there are idea elements, there are question elements, and event elements. And so those all together, this story here is not focusing on too many things, so I think there's probably idea and milieu, I think. Let's say 2 elements. It is a short story, so we don't want to get too many elements anyway, which is 7,500 words, which we then divide by 1.5. I did this in the messiest way possible. Divided by 1.5 equals... So this story has enough elements in it to be about 5,000 words long. So once I write this story, I will come back and I will times 750. I will test it out and see how that goes. So there we have it. That is how I like to plan a story, from the start of just a tiny idea grain of Maz in a barrow all the way to a story where he helps out some ghosts and loses a favorite artifact in the process. So I hope this was useful to you in some way. If it was, feel free to leave a comment. If you like this video, there'll be more of them eventually, so feel free to subscribe. And I hope you have a happy NaNoWriMo. Thank you.